Good evening. Today is Thursday, February 20th, 2020. Now call this regular Board of Education meeting to order. Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Begley?
Here.
Mr. Birding?
Present.
Mrs. Gundrum?
Here.
Mrs. O'Neill?
Here.
Mrs. Shorter?
Mr. Bickley, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Begley. First item on our agenda is presentations, resolutions. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Birdie, members of the board. We do have two presentations scheduled this evening. Our first is our Compass Elementary Spotlight, and at this time, I'll turn it over to our building principal, Mrs. Hauer, and I think she may have introduced some friends that she brought with her this evening as well, or at least one. Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you so much to the board for taking time to hear from us tonight. We're excited to share with you some of the wonderful things that are taking place just across the street at Compass Elementary School. You can see some pictures up there. We think we got the cutest kids that Fairfield has ever seen over there at Compass. They're just absolutely adorable. So just to kind of give you a snapshot of Compass before we get into a little bit more detail, just a snapshot of what our student demographics look like. So right now we are servicing, as of today, 845 students, and we truly believe that it is our diversity that we have within our school that is what makes us strong. We have the opportunity, and our students have the opportunity to learn from each other each and every day, which is something that we take a lot of pride in. Our students come from all over the world. They were born in 35 different countries, which is pretty amazing when you think about us being here in just little Fairfield, Ohio, and we have students in one building that come from 35 different countries speaking a multitude of languages. You can see the ethnicity breakdown there, so I won't go through each piece of that, but then you can also see some of our other student group information, where Compass is about 56% economically disadvantaged. We are about 20% of our students are English language learners, which means that English is not their first language. About 11% of our students are on IEPs and receiving special needs services, and about 5% of our students have been identified as gifted through the eyes of the state. We believe all of our students are gifted, but in the eyes of the state, 5% are gifted and are on WEPs, which are written education plans. So as you can imagine, having that diverse of a student population, it brings with it a lot of wonderful opportunities to meet the unique needs that our students have. So we wanted to share with you things that we're doing at Compass that go beyond the regular school day, because we have taken some actions to increase our students, increase the length of time that our students are in school each day, to extend their learning beyond the differentiation that's happening daily in the classrooms and beyond just everything that they're getting to experience within that 9:30 to 4 time frame. So I'm going to speak briefly about a couple of things, and then I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Lambert here, and she's going to share about one of our newest additions that we've done. But the first thing we wanted to mention to you is our kindergarten intervention program. You might hear that referred to as KIP. That is something that has been in place at Compass since Compass originated just 3 short years ago. So with the kindergarten intervention plan, 30 of our kindergarten students receive 2.5 hours of reading and math intervention 5 days a week that go beyond their typical half day. So, and you have your morning kindergartners, the 15 most at-risk kindergartners that are in kindergarten in the morning. They then stay for the afternoon and they receive intervention for that second half of the day. And then your afternoon students, they have their typical afternoon kindergarten program, but they come in the morning and they receive intervention in the morning. So it's a smaller group, 15 students within that classroom, to really give some intensive intervention when we all know that early intervention is the key to trying to close the gaps that many students have. So we're very excited about that program, and like I said, that's been up and running for about 3 years now at Compass, and it's been in the district since before then. Another program that is going to be starting this year, this is a new pilot that we're doing thanks to Mr. Smith and his foresight in coming to us and saying, what can we do to increase our, how our students are performing and to help them grow more, is what we're referring to as our first grade race to reading. program. So that's an extended day program where, again, we're looking at early intervention. So we are taking our 20 most at-risk first grade students based off of how they score on the assessments that we give them, and they are going to be receiving an additional hour of reading intervention 2 days a week for 8 weeks, and that starts March 1st. So we've got our students registered, and we're excited to see how that can help them, help our students that we know just need that extra little boost, get to those benchmarks that we have set for them that we want them to get to. We also have our STARS Extended Day program, and so our STARS Extended Day program moves a little bit away from that early intervention piece to where we're still doing reading intervention, but it also has that test prep focus to it. Because as we all know, we have the third grade reading guarantee that's in place, and so we wanted to have something that we could use to help our students that we know are in jeopardy of retention. Right now, this year, Compass has about 30 students out of 177 third graders that are still in jeopardy of retention. And so we're happy to say that all 30 of our students are signed up to participate in STARS. That started this week, and so they will have that more intensive interventions for the next 6 weeks. And it's 3 days a week. They come in every morning for an extra hour of reading help where it's a blend of doing reading intervention along with test prep and having them do more technology pieces along with that. So looking at how we can have kids practicing those assessment type questions that they know they're going to be exposed to on the Ohio State test on that technology platform. And then the next piece that we wanted to mention, which we absolutely love and our kids love and I know our parents love, we have our homework club where every single week 45 of our students in grades 3rd grade through 5th grade receive an additional hour, 1 day a week of just purely homework help. So we have 45 students that stay after school 1 day a week, and they have our teachers that are a part of that. They talk to the kids' teachers and say, okay, what is it that they need to get done? And they help our students to get their homework done and to practice their spelling words and do all of those things so that they can come into school the next day feeling as prepared as they possibly can and get off on the right step instead of coming in and thinking with their head down, I don't have my homework. They can come in and proudly turn in their homework and get them going and get them started off on a positive first step. And then the last piece that we're going to talk about, I'm going to let Ms. Lambert take over because this has been her baby and she has done a wonderful job of getting this started for us, our Connections Mentorship Program.
Thank you. So, like Mrs. Howard said, I'll be speaking about the Connections Mentorship Program, which is something that has really been on my heart since Compass opened, but now we are just able to get it rolling this year. So here you have the mission and vision, which is to enhance the overall social, emotional, and academic success of children by pairing students of color with adults who are the same sex and same ethnic background, who can provide consistent, long-lasting relationships and serve as role models to assist students in becoming caring, competent, and contributing adults to society. So when we look at what specific student groups the program services, right now we are servicing students, boys and girls, in grades 2 through 5. We are currently able to provide mentorship to 14 students altogether. So we've got 8 girls and 6 boys who are paired with mentors. And again, the focus is on Hispanic and African American students. So when we look at the purpose of the program, a couple of things. First, we really wanted to look at our state tests. So based on 2018 Spring Ohio State test data, these 2 student groups performed at a significantly lower proficiency level in comparison to their non-minority peers. So we work to provide comprehensive support via mentorship to students of color throughout the year by connecting them with the role models whom they can build positive relationships with. The adult mentors will provide accountability, serve as models for success, and enhance the overall development of the children they mentor. So it's kind of our way to tackle the achievement gap, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Another reason why I put a little quote here, and it says, imagine someone taking a group picture of you and 8 of your closest friends. What is the first, and maybe only, if you're like me, thing that you look at to determine if it was a good picture or not? You look at yourself and say, oh yeah, that was a good picture, yeah, because you look at you, right? And so that's the very thing. We need to see ourselves in the picture, and our students need the same. They need to be able to see themselves in the picture, and our picture is the school community. So through the Connections Mentoring Program, we work to help close the achievement gap But we also feel like it supports our district-wide initiatives. And I have there, the FCSD is kind of small, I apologize, but I wanted to put the entire district goal in our Ohio Improvement Plan, that by the end of the 2021-2022 school year, 100% of FCSD students will have daily opportunities to foster meaningful relationships with peers and adults, utilizing both district and community resources. As strategies to meet these goals, buildings will employ effective systems to create a positive environment for all students, teach behavioral expectations, establish consequences, and ensure consistent implementation throughout the building, as well as utilize resources to meet students' daily needs. So we felt that the program supported that goal as well. Also, just some overall benefits for young people, and we've had some meetings already with our mentors and mentees, so I threw those in there. The supportive and healthy relationships formed between mentors and mentees are both immediate and long-term and contribute to a host of benefits for mentors and mentees. Mentoring can help youth as they go through challenging life transitions, including dealing with stressful changes at home or transitioning to adulthood. Potential benefits, of course, are educational, behavioral, and social emotional. We have mentor screening and accountability. All mentors have been properly trained, where our Connections mentoring leadership team shared the vision and mission and purpose of the program and reason for why we are implementing that at our school. We reviewed school demographics and background information. We read and discussed articles pertaining to the achievement gap and benefits of mentorship. All of my mentors have been background checked. They reviewed and signed the FCSD Code of Conduct, and they completed a mentor profile to provide us with some basic information about themselves and why they chose to be a mentor. So we're not just pulling people off the street. They have to go through some training, my own training that I put them through to make sure they're good people for our kids. Some other expectations for them: they have weekly check-ins with their mentee. Parents are included in on that communication between the mentor and mentee. So they're either texting three-way with the parent or using the parent's phone or calling, but the parent is included in that weekly communication between the mentor and mentee. And then once a month, our mentors and mentees meet at Compass Elementary to complete activities focused on specific topics. So we meet the third Wednesday of every month. We just met yesterday, and they did vision boards. So we talked about short-term and long-term goals, and they did vision boards. Some of the students, it was their first time ever, and they're like, what is a vision board? What does that mean? We talked about what are some of your goals, and of course they had houses and watches and cars on their boards, and we said, that's all great, but you need your education to be able to get those things, and here are the steps. And I actually walked past one mentor and mentee, and they were talking about good credit. So I'm like, wow, you guys are getting real deep here, but all good things. And you'll see there's a mentor log, and they have to log the times that they communicate with their mentees once a week. So I talked about our monthly session topics. Like I said, we meet the third Wednesday of every month at Compass. That's our in-person meeting, and those meetings are focused. So our first one was just kind of a getting to know you session. Like I said, yesterday we did goal setting. We'll be talking about behavior management, personal grooming, and building healthy relationships in the future. And we'll have student-centered activities around those things. So a little bit about our mentors. I want you to see who will be working with our students. So our first one is Joanna Kino. She's an ESL community liaison. She's got a little quote there about why she chose to be a mentor. She said, any additional support I can give to Hispanic students and any students is a great way to pay it back. Tracy Ashford, who is here tonight, one of our high school counselors. She chose to be a mentor. She said she would like to be a part of something that helps to benefit our students and community. Shelly Birch is a licensed social worker and case manager, and she says, I feel it is vital to give back to the community and be an example to youth. She was one of my mentors. I said, give me the hardest kids you've got. I'll take them, because I know what it's like. Dewana Lenoir is a psychologist. She said, I want to provide children with a positive experience with an adult that will serve to foster growth and healthy, non-biased development. Deanna Owens, who is also here tonight, one of our high school counselors, she said, I see the true value of mentorship in being able to connect with someone who looks like you. Dawn Warren Hildreth is an ESL instructional specialist for the district. She said, I realize how important it is to be a responsible, reliable, trustworthy, and enthusiastic role model for our students. Ms. Latrice Watkins is a fifth grade teacher at Compass. She said, I want to impact students' lives in a positive way and give back to the community. Shanice Weechman is a school psychologist intern at Compass, and she said, I want to show my students that they are cared for on a personal level. Rayshawn Askew, those were all of our female mentors. Now our male mentors, Rayshawn Askew, he's a personal trainer and athletic trainer right here in Fairfield. He said, I understand the importance of giving back and making an impact in the lives of young people. Lamar Birch is a manager and pastor, again in Fairfield. He said, I believe in providing guidance and mentorship to kids and to provide a positive example. Ricardo Calles is a high school Spanish teacher here at Fairfield. He said, is he here? Oh, there he is, he's right there. He said, I love working with kids and I love the fact that FCSD is a very diverse place. And he was over there with one of our friends today in art class, with one of our friends, Christopher. Darian Martin is a high school counselor. He said, I want to make a positive impact on the youth. Dennis Williams is a General Electric Operations Director. He said, I feel that it is extremely important to provide an example to children of color. So I know that took a little bit of time, but again, I wanted to be able to show you who these amazing people are, and I thank them every Thursday. I call it my Thankful Thursday moment, and I send them a message and just say, I'm so thankful that you all take the time. You don't get paid to do this. You're just doing this out of the kindness of your heart and because you care about our kids and you care about this vision and partnering with us and helping our babies to have somebody to look up to. We've got some people coming tomorrow to the Compass Talent Show because they want to see their mentee perform. I've got people coming over bringing kids lunch, just all kinds of amazing things. And I'm just so thankful that we're able to find people willing to do this and hope that we can continue to keep it going. And I thank you for listening and your support for the program.
So that is all that we have. Do you have any questions for us in regards to
Questions,
anything we've
comments from
shared?
the board?
I just want to thank the two of you. You two are amazing leaders, and to be in your building, you can tell just from the mentors and the kids, it would be wonderful to be led by the two of you every day. So thank you, and thank you to all those mentors. I know I appreciate that time, and it makes a huge impact on those kids. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to say it's great to see all the early intervention stuff. As my kids are approaching the end of high school, I even now more realize how important that very, very beginning is, and so I appreciate all those extra efforts that you're putting in there to get them ready for all the benchmarks that they have ahead of them. So thank you for all the effort and leadership and good work.
We appreciate your support.
Yeah, I would just say in both components, I see reoccurring themes of volunteerism, certainly in the mentoring program, and then also commitment by our families and parents at Compass to be a part of the early intervention programs you have. I mean, you're asking them to come early, to stay late, to really commit to those things, and you're getting excellent participation, and that's, again, speaks to the school and the job you're doing there, so thank you.
And one thing I forgot to mention is that our teachers are the ones that staff those extended day opportunities for our students. And so without them saying, yes, I'm willing to put in the extra time to do this and to work with these small groups of kids and give them what they need, the programs would not be able to take place. So we're very grateful for the staff that we have that is ready to just go all in and give everything that they've got to our kids beyond what they need to do contractually in their day.
And give them our thanks as well.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to say thank you. I mean, we will see the fruits of this. It will be a good program, and it takes a lot of time to volunteer, to be a part of something like this. So I'm very grateful for all the volunteers and, you know, the time that you're putting in it. I can see some of those out there. But this is fantastic. Keep up the good work. It'll pay off.
Mrs. Gooder?
I just wanted to echo everyone else's sentiments. I think both of these programs are great. I'll be interested in seeing how the intervention program helps and, you know, whether it can be expanded even more in the future. And as far as the mentoring, I think that's awesome. That is amazing. My husband works with at-risk youth, and he talks a lot about things that maybe could have been done differently when kids were younger and having positive role models. And so I think it's important that we are educating the whole child. We're helping them both academically and on a personal level, and I think it's an awesome program.
I have a couple questions. Are there children that are waiting for a mentor? Do you have enough?
We can always use more mentors. We're trying to, with starting the program, she was wanting to just make sure we had, wanted to get the ball rolling, make sure we had all the logistics done. But yeah, I mean, we would love to have a mentor for all 845 of our students. But yeah.
There's always a waiting list. That's what I've kind of been telling teachers. And like I said, it has gone beyond what I thought. Like I said, we're able to service 14 students when I thought maybe we'll only be able to start at 8. So that's been great. But it has been work to be able to even manage that and keep up with that and do it, in excellence, because I want to do it that way. But like Kim said, we're always using more. So I'm always reaching out to people as we find the need. And I have my little possible mentee spreadsheet that
That was going to
that
be
I
my
keep.
next question, how do you get mentors?
Really, it's just been word of mouth. The Journal News came out and did an awesome article on our first meeting, and so that was on Facebook, and so people saw it and shared it, and Ricardo shared it on his Facebook, which got another person asking about it and got that person's email. It really has just been word of mouth, honestly.
Great. I'm just wondering if there could be a connection between our CDA to find people of color that could also help be mentors. That's a great organization that we have already in our district, that maybe there can be some connection there, hey, I know somebody that might be willing to do that. And I wonder if you could reach out to that organization and have them put their feelers out, because this is a wonderful program. I think it's amazing. So thank you both very much for all your work. Appreciate it.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yes, our second presentation, Comprehensive School Counseling Program. This time I'll turn it over to Jeff Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, Mr. Birdie, members of the board. The timing of that presentation couldn't have been more perfect. As Mrs. Gundrum said, the whole child was a reference that she made, and that's what you're going to touch on today in terms of a comprehensive approach to school counseling. The first slide there, and that's the introduction, is a snippet of the new plan, the strategic plan for the state of Ohio, Each Child, Our Future. And you see at the center of that is an emblem of the whole child, and around that is different domains and different principles and areas that the Ohio Department of Education believes this is what it takes to educate our children. Look back just 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, we talked a lot about scores and math and reading, and that was our significant focus. And we've expanded that to talk about other aspects of a child in terms of what the role school can play. Think about the work that Fairfield's done when it comes to expanding services like the school-based health center. So when that came out just 2 years ago, we went through it and we were impressed with the work that Fairfield has been doing and how it aligns with the work that ODE has been doing. Today, we want to really branch into one part of this, which is our comprehensive school counseling and the work that our school counselors, as you look out in the audience, almost all of our school counselors across the district are here today. And they've worked hard to create this presentation so the board and the community are more informed about what we do day in and day out for our school counseling program and how our kids are served by them and the work that they do. So I'm going to introduce one at a time. We'll introduce our speakers, but this is a collaborative effort. As you notice, there's 6 people that will speak tonight, and there's probably 15 other individuals that were involved in making this come together. It really crosses a lot of different departments and areas to put together this presentation. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Heather Braun, who is a high school counselor with us.
So thank you for allowing us to come here and present our school counseling program to you today. Just to give you a little bit of overview of what we will cover. First, we'll delve into a little bit of the American School Counseling Association, ASCA, which is what our plan is based off of. They give us our guidelines. And then we will go into our actual school counseling program. We'll explain the different components of it, what it does. And in front of you, I believe you have a copy of our program that you can follow along with. We've included pages in it as well, page numbers. And then we will talk about the advisory board, which is a component of the school counseling program. That is a component that involves you and the community, just different stakeholders, to ensure that we're hitting all the needs of our students here. So we're going to go into that as well. And then we're going to end with the elementary school counseling and talking about expanding their services. So this is just an introduction of all the counselors that we have here at Fairfield City School District. We have 7 at the high school, 2 at the freshman school, 4 in the middle school, and 3 in the elementary schools. We have worked on this plan for the past year and a half, and we have done this at our PD meetings. We've all come together because this is a comprehensive school counseling program, so it's from K through 12. We want to ensure that each of us has a say for each of our levels. So this has been quite the undertaking, and we're here to present it. So just to give you a little bit of background, the American School Counseling Association, also known as ASCA, they developed a national model, which is what our plan is based off of. Just to give you a little bit of idea of what it gives us, it tells us what our professional responsibilities are, how our time should be allotted with indirect versus direct services, so how much time we spend directly with the student, and then the other things that we do for our students. It gives us curriculum ideas for K through 12, the different domains that we should be hitting, how we should be hitting them. And then the last part is developing a comprehensive school counseling program. So now I'm going to introduce Karen Albrecht, and she will speak a little bit more about what a school counseling program is.
Hi. So our school counseling program, there's a lot of planning that goes into the way that we run our programs, and it's different. It looks different at each of the grade levels because we want to address the needs of our students. There's different needs at the elementary than there is at the middle than there is at the high school. And so, our goals at each of the levels obviously is to address the social, emotional, the personal and the academic, the career needs of our students, but we do that differently for elementary than we do for high school. And like I said, a lot of planning goes into it, but also then we are flexible as well, because there are times when students come to us when, they may be in crisis, or there may be a situation at home that they need to address. So while we do have this big plan, of how we can address all of these needs, we also obviously think about, the immediate needs of our students as well. So the comprehensive school counseling program follows sort of like a recipe. The first part of that is the foundation, and that's for teachers, it's sort of like the curriculum, the standards that we follow. The next part, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't flip for you. I'm sorry about that. The next part is the management system, and this is how we do this, who we kind of check in with, who we work with. We work with our principals, we work with our administrators, because they're obviously a very important part of our counseling team. And then finally, the accountability part. How are we keeping how are we checks and balancing our program, and are we meeting the students' needs, and where can we improve? Where are we seeing successes? Where can we adjust our program from year to year, because we want it to be sort of a fluent program, because it can't just be the same, because our students aren't the same every year. I'd now like to introduce to you Deanna, and she is going to share with you more about what this program looks like specifically in Fairfield.
Good evening.
Good evening. On behalf of the administration and staff at Fairfield High School, we would like to thank all who came out tonight for conferences. At this time, this concludes our evening. We look forward to seeing many of you at our next conference night, March 26th. Thank you, and have a safe trip home. By the way, we do have a black GM key in the front office if you're missing it. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go into a little bit more detail with each of the sections of our comprehensive school counseling program, but we do have our pages referenced on our PowerPoint for you all. So within the foundation section, you will see that our school counseling beliefs are there, our vision, our statement, our mission statement, and our overall program goals are included as well as the standards for school counselors that are set by ASCA as well as the state of Ohio. So I'll go ahead and read the overall mission of our school counseling program within our district is to truly empower each of our students to achieve his or her academic, career, personal, social, emotional success. Our goal is to really foster student achievement, and by doing that, cultivating the development of all of our students by building personal connections with those students and being able to enhance their capabilities, close the achievement gaps, and really support positive choices among our student bodies. Moving on to the management system. That section does include several of the tools that we use in order to, let's say, look at data. So our school counseling competencies are included in that section, as well as our school counseling program assessment, which are really just self-assessments on are we meeting our competencies, and is our overall program being successful? There's also use of time assessments in there, which are really useful for us to be able to say, okay, this is how much time we are dedicating, to this with regard to this student, or we're spending this time doing this. And then the annual agreement is in there, our information about our advisory council, which I'll get to at the end. And then use of data, so our school profile is included in that, as well as our program results, action plans, and then our calendars. And a lot of this section is going to vary amongst our school buildings. We also have accountability, so that's the last section of the school comprehensive school counseling program. Again, that section is heavily involved with data analysis. So looking at data that we may pull throughout the school year, or at the beginning of the school year, and how we're going to analyze that to make things better for the next school year, the results of that data analysis, and then our performance evaluations that we all get, and then the program audit, which is revised every year, and that's kind of a running and live document that we keep up to date. So this here is discussing our advisory board. As it was mentioned before, the advisory board is a group who will work with us and meet with us to review and revise on the implementation of our school counseling program to help us meet the needs and address the concerns facing all of our students. This is something that we would meet twice yearly, which would include administrators, parents, community members, and students. And we would really love your support in that, and hopefully have one of you all join our advisory board to sit with us and work on our comprehensive school counseling program to provide the best services for our students in this district. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
That's the overview of our school counseling program. It is a lot. I don't know if you've had a lot of time to look through the program. Are there any questions that you would like to ask about it?
I have a question.
Sure.
And this may be silly, but so you have developed this plan? Like, this is what the year and a half was creating?
Yes.
This didn't exist prior to that?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of work.
It was a lot
Yeah.
of work. It was nice though to work with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really great. And the plan is to continue that, and then also now to bring in, like we said, the community stakeholders, the students, you. And it's a small advisory board, so it's about one person from each of those groups, but they're representing that group, and hopefully it will continue to grow and we can continue to hit the needs that we need to. There's a lot of assessments in there, a lot of tools that we'll use, so.
I'm more than welcome to volunteer for the advisory board.
All right.
Unless, I don't want to go in front of anybody, but
Okay.
I think it would be interesting.
All right, noted, okay. Any other questions?
I guess I just have one. So obviously your target market is different, whether we're talking about the elementary school, the middle schools, the high schools, but are we creating efficiencies and some uniformities within the entire program so that the students feel the same, I'm not saying this right. So the students are when they know they go to a counselor, they're going to get the same thing and create the same comfort level for that student, whether they're a middle schooler, they've graduated from elementary school and now they're going to high school, and creating some of that uniformity for the students themselves.
Great question.
So what, are you asking if that's what the plan is for?
Well, is that a component of it, I guess?
Absolutely. I think, so the comprehensive school counseling program is also so that we can start at the elementary school and that it will continue to work its way up to the high school. That's why we're all working together, because hopefully down the line, once we know our needs, we'll be able to say, oh, the elementary school is doing this, so we'll continue to build on this, or they can look at what we're doing and then build from there on. So each need is different at each level, but overall, if we see an overarching need of something, we can all work together to hit that at every level. And that's what this program does, because we'll all get together at some point just to make sure that we are doing that. So
Great.
It's a good guideline to have to make sure that that is what we're doing.
Other questions, comments?
I don't really have a question, but I wanted to thank you for putting this together. It obviously took a lot of work, and it looks very comprehensive. And sort of to piggyback on our last conversation, I like seeing that you have all these social and emotional, programs for younger kids too, because I feel like, again, we are educating the whole child, we're taking care of the whole child. And the more positive influences that all of our kids have in their lives as they're going through their school career, I think helps them reach their potential even more. So I'd like to thank you for putting that together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Well,
job.
thank you for allowing us to present today. Thanks.
Thank you. Tremendous work. Thank you so much.
Just to continue on the piece of an update to the board in terms of our elementary counselors, I'm going to turn things over to Erica Green. She has been with us for a number of years and has experience in the middle school and now our elementary school. So we're going to continue the conversation a little bit more about our elementary school counselors. So, Erica, welcome.
Thank you. As Jeff said, we now have elementary counselors. In the spring of 2018, the board had approved the addition of 3 elementary counselors. So we are each in 2 different buildings, and we are now serving our second year. Last spring, we kind of gave an update of how the first year was going. So we wanted to kind of give an update of year 2. And prior to this, it had been roughly 20 years, I think, since we had elementary counselors. So we're really excited about the work that we've been able to do in the elementary buildings. Just as all the counselors and things are different at each level from, elementary, middle, and high. Each of our 6 buildings are very unique and different. And so this is just a snapshot of some things that we do during the day, whether it's counseling with individual students, whether it may be a conflict they're having with a peer, a home situation, as small groups, addressing a variety of things from social skills, anxiety, a divorce in the family, whatever it may be, some anger management, things going on. We consult with a lot of outside agencies for additional services. We work with our administrators, school psychologists, nurse. We all kind of come together. It's kind of the theme for the night, for the social emotional needs of the whole child. And all of these things play into the next slide here of our social emotional learning standards, which as Jeff presented at the very beginning, it's one of the 4 learning domains identified by the state of Ohio. And so we all have the same definition of the social emotional learning. According to ODE, the social emotional learning is the process through which children acquire and effectively apply knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. And just as a board member shared, research demonstrates that students who receive support for social and emotional learning in schools do better academically, socially, and behaviorally. So developing these skills in our students, something that, we do every day. K-5 is part of meeting the needs of the whole child, and something that we as counselors strive to do. Last year, as part of our presentation, we presented a tool that we wanted to use to help assess those social emotional learning needs in our students. So this year, from K-5, we did administer a screener that we chose last year. The name of that is Panorama, is the name of the screener that we did. And through that screener, you can see the areas that were assessed: self-management, social awareness, grit, self-efficacy, emotional regulation, growth mindset, and sense of belonging. Now, our K through 2, that was assessed by the classroom teachers through observation. And then, so the two that have the asterisks, those were not included in the K through 2, but just in our 3 through 5, because those students took a survey based on how they felt themselves. They did that assessment. And then we will be administering that assessment again in the spring so that we can see where their growth has been from the fall to spring as far as their social emotional needs. We also held a training for the teachers on one of our in-service days so that they could look at their student data. And the way that the data is presented to us from this particular screener is that they can look at their individual students and see their needs there, as well as look at their whole class. And then administrators and myself are able to see individual students in the class, but also as a building as a whole, and what areas that we need to improve upon there. And I know some grade levels have asked me hey, these are areas that, our grade level needs as a whole. Can you come teach a lesson on this? So those are ways that we're kind of addressing those. And then the part of the training that we also provided for the teachers, in that there's a section where they can go and look for lessons to help, little ways that they can do things in the classroom to address those needs as well. And we also sent home a letter to families with their students' scores on it, how they scored themselves in each area. And on that, it also had tips that they could do at home for things to help improve that at home as well. All right, and now I'm going to introduce Ms. Hauer again to talk about some impacts.
Hello again. I'm here for this presentation on behalf of all of our elementary principals here in Fairfield to just share with you the impact that we feel school counselors have had on our students, their families, and our staff here in Fairfield. And it's really hard to put into words because their impact has been so tremendous. And a lot of the work they do is very personal to students, so we have to be very cognizant of that, of what we share in regards to students' personal experiences. But to think that we didn't have these positions 2 years ago is, it's just mind-blowing to me, because at this point I don't know how we would manage without having them in our elementary schools. Their office is a revolving door. It is a revolving door for students, it's a revolving door for parents, it's a revolving door for grandparents who are raising children, it's a revolving door for foster parents, it's a revolving door for social workers that want to get more insight on what's happening with students. And it's a revolving door for our staff as well, that are coming to our school counselors saying, hey, can you help me figure out what's going on with this kid? Because something just isn't, they're just off right now, what's happening? So for a multitude of reasons, there's always someone at their door. There is never a quiet moment for our school counselors at the elementary level. And I think it just goes to show how the needs of our students are changing, and the amount of needs that our students have, they're growing. And that those needs go beyond just the early intervention needs academically, but we need to begin, and we are now providing those early intervention for students in regards to their social and emotional learning, going back to that whole child piece. So when we think about having our school counselors in the elementary world, some of the things that they've been able to provide to our students, services our students have been able to receive thanks to the addition of the 3 into the elementary world that we have. They're now able to provide some small group counseling. So small groups of kids, depending on what they need, can come in and get lessons on social skills. So social skills groups that can meet, conflict resolution strategies groups get together to just talk about how to manage conflict. And it's, I joke, but I mean, there is a group of kids that come to do their conflict resolution strategies in Ms. Green's office, and you're like, yep, you're in the right place because they're arguing over who gets what chair, so it's just managing those types of things as children that translate into how they're going to manage situations as they become young adults. Strategies, we can do groups, and we do groups for strategies on how to manage anxiety, which we are seeing more and more in our younger kids, and strategies on how to cope with grief, how to cope with divorce, strategies on how to cope with anger. So teaching our students anger management strategies, and that we all get angry sometimes about things, but trying to put the tools in their toolbox to help them regulate that emotion and express how they're feeling in a way that is going to be healthy for them and keep them out of trouble at the same time in school. I know at Compass, when Erica sent out an email to the teachers asking for referrals of which kids would benefit from these different groups that we're going to be able to offer, immediately, overnight, she had over 100 student names of kids that teachers are like, yes, 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 please, please, please give this to my student. And we've been able to do that, been able to provide that direct instruction. Ms. Green has, along with our other elementary counselors, and our students have definitely benefited from that. And I'll say again, that need just keeps growing. We see more and more of a need for that. Kind of as a tribute to those groups, I wanted to share, Erica received an email just a couple of days ago from a parent of a student who has been a part of one of her anxiety groups, teaching students how to manage their anxiety. And what the parent wrote was, I wanted to take a minute and let you know how much I appreciate what you and the school are doing by offering the small group counseling. It has been so helpful for my daughter. She looks forward to it every Tuesday, and we talk about the lesson and what she's learned. She actually does a little lesson with me and tells me it will help me when I worry. She is now understanding how to identify her anxiety and how to use her skills. I have many, many good stories of when these skills have come in handy for my daughter. So I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you and make sure you realize what a difference you're making for these kids. And if you ever need anything, please let me know, because it is so important for these programs to continue. So when you get a message like that from a parent who is seeing the direct impact of how that is shaping their child and helping their child make it through their day in a healthier, happier way and to worry a little bit less, it kind of validates the impact that our school counselors have on our students and our school as a whole. In addition to the small group counseling, another service our students are able to get is classroom guidance lessons. So there might be a situation where a teacher's like, as a whole, our class is struggling with this. And Ms. Green is able to go in there and do lessons on things such as conflict resolution, lessons on empathy. That is so huge for us right now. We need for our children and for our youth to be able to look at things through the lens of someone else and see another person's perspective. So lessons on empathy, sense of belonging, coping skills, teaching calm down strategies, whatever that need is, she can go do a whole classroom lesson and make better use of her time in servicing more kids if we see that that's a need. And thanks to these groups and lessons, I will say that we have seen a decrease in school discipline as well, because we're able to give kids the strategies they need to help them calm down, which then helps them make better decisions, which then keeps them out of trouble and kind of get ahead of a situation to stop something from happening that we're able to get ahead of that way. And lastly, but definitely in my opinion, is most importantly, one of the things that our school counselors at the elementary level are able to do is provide short-term individual counseling. So when you think about individual counseling at a short-term level, this takes precedence over the small group counseling and these classroom lessons when the need arises, and it arises every day. So this short-term individual counseling is when a student is in crisis. So when you think about a student coming in that's in crisis, which might be due to home issues, it might be because the student is in the middle of a depressive episode where they are questioning their self-worth. It might be they're coming into school and they've just had a death in their family. It might be that they're in the middle of a major anxiety or panic attack. It might be that they just came to school and found out that their parent was being incarcerated. It might be that they just came in and found out that their parent was being deported. It might be that they just came into school from having witnessed or having been a part of abusive situations. And sadly, the list goes on, and I don't want to dwell on that, but this is real. I have examples in my mind of little kids that have had all of these situations that you just wouldn't even want to walk a mile in their shoes, because some of their stories are things that you would not wish on your worst enemy. And having our school counselors there to be able to help with those things and to be able to give advice and guide our children through that has been so impactful for me as an administrator and the rest of our staff and our students. Because in the past, these counseling needs, they'd be handled as best they could by the teacher, or they'd be handled as best they could by the administrator or a school psychologist or the nurse. And, obviously that would take precedence. And so we'd be dealing, helping children through these situations while still at the same time trying to juggle teaching, trying to juggle evaluating, trying to juggle being an instructional leader, trying to tend to students' physical ailments if they were the school nurse. And so now having these school counselors there in our buildings with us, we're able to address more of those counseling needs, that they're able to do more of that, which then allows the rest of the staff to focus more on what they were hired for and what they are considered experts to be in. So we are very grateful for our school counselors that we have, and their impact has been tremendous, and we are grateful for them. But having said all of that, I will say that the biggest challenge when we think about, okay, next steps, the biggest challenge that we see in our elementary schools now with our school counselors is that they are spread pretty thin. With the size of their caseloads and only being in each school, because they're split between 2 schools in each school for 2.5 days a week, it's a challenge to fit everyone and everything in that they want to fit in and to get done. Because while they're at one school, inevitably, there's a need at the other school. And it's not that they're not handling a need where they're at, there's needs at both. So while they're here, they've got a kid showing up at their door over at the other school saying, hey, I need to talk to the school counselor. And we're like, oh, she's not there, she's over at the other school right now. Or there's teachers emailing while she's at one school, she's getting emails from teachers at the other school that are saying, hey, can you check in on this kid for me? Or she's getting calls from parents while she's at one school, parents from the other school saying, hey, we had a really rough night last night, this happened, this happened, this happened, can you please just check on my baby for me? Worst case scenario in that is that we have a student that comes in full-blown crisis. And obviously, the rest of the team in the school steps up to help out, and myself, administration, and teachers, we step in and address those situations when our school counselor is not available, but when she's at the other school. But it does create, it kind of takes away from those other things that we're supposed to be doing within our jobs as well. So I share that with you just so that you understand that we have had such a great impact, and the needs are there for our school counselors. Most definitely, we are making very good use of their time. But we do feel like we could be even more impactful with our school counselors, and we could put them to work every single day in every single one of our elementary schools. I'll end on this. Haven't been an employee in Fairfield City Schools now for 19 years, which sounds crazy to say, but an employee for 19 and an administrator here for 13. 10 to 15 years ago, I don't know that I would have been standing up here recommending this to you. I don't think that I would have, because we had students with needs, but the needs are becoming more and more tremendous and more serious. So I just share that with you because, unfortunately, we do see that there is more of a need now than what there was before, and they're growing and they're changing. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Madden so that he can share with you some of our next proposed steps and just food for thought as we think about what the future of our counseling program looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hauer, for just giving us that picture of what it looks like in the building. And we'll end on some opportunities that we see that we can take advantage of in that continuous improvement piece. As you heard tonight, we are just scratching the surface with those social-emotional competencies and what we want our children to walk away with at the elementary level, what we want them to grow as with that social-emotional piece. We have standards, we have tools that help us evaluate and assess student skills. We've trained our staff, but we see the school counselor as a big piece in making sure that continues to grow. Mrs. Hauer, definitely describe to you a daily need when it comes to a school counselor, and we see that there would be a tremendous use of a school counselor assigned to one building. If we did that, we would be able to take our caseloads from 1 to 1,400, which is an average, to 1 to 700 as an average. So not only would it be assigned to one building and have that availability, it also would just be a more manageable number for our school counselor, elementary school counselors to work with. Just to review briefly that in terms of funding for this, there is a cost to the district, but we do have a little bit of money that we could offset with the student wellness and success funding. That has helped cover some of our costs this year with our existing school counselors. In terms of what we have allocated, we could spend about some money to cover the cost of half of the 3 additional. If we were to move forward with that, we could use that to cover half of the 3 additional. Mrs. Lane did include this for ongoing costs. It is included in the 5-year forecast that she presented in November. So it's been calculated in there using some of the wellness funds to offset the initial cost. And obviously, we don't know the future, what those funds look like. But if they were there in the future, that may help us out when it comes to the impact on that 5-year forecast. But it has been planned for, it's been budgeted for. We've developed a comprehensive plan. We've talked to all of our elementary principals, and we wanted to come to the board and let you guys know this is what we want your feedback on those ideas. So with that, we'll turn it over to you.
Questions from the board?
Can I kind of think out loud together? So the work that you do is incredible. And when we talk about moving a caseload from 1 person to 1,400, reducing it to 1 person to 700, like that still sounds monumental. I would completely be in favor of having an additional elementary school counselor at each of the elementary schools. As I think back, like Kim, you said, and Erica, I think you said we haven't had elementary school counselors in 20 years. So it's hard for me to picture, obviously when I was a kid, which was way longer than 20 years ago, we probably didn't have elementary school counselors. And I think of your question, so this is me thinking out loud, which is not gonna make sense, but I'm in favor of all of it, is when you go to kindergarten, you learn, like, this is my teacher, and my teacher's gonna they're gonna teach me something, and they're gonna give me homework, and I'm gonna take it home, and you learn, like, what a teacher is. And so I would assume now that we have elementary counselors, you learn what a counselor is, which I think will help in the continuity part, because I think for the older kids, when there weren't elementary school counselors, I think it was learning what a counselor is kind of didn't happen. So I'm hoping that next generation that goes through that learns from a young age what a counselor is, that will help. And I would love like that anxiety small group that you do at elementary school, like totally at every single level. It would be great if we had anxiety small group. I could use a little anxiety small group counseling. So I hope that you guys share that just like we say, if there's a great program going on in this math class, like share it with this math class. So I would hope if you say there's a great small group that we're doing with the counselors at West, that you share that with the counselors at the middle school. Because it would be great for this next wave of kids that goes through, when we are just not talking about MAP scores and ACT and SAT, but we're talking about that whole child, for them to know at any point in those 12 years what a counselor is and when I can go to them and what services they can help me with. Because I think the back half of maybe 6th grade on, that's a little iffy, but hopefully with this next wave going through, we'll do a great job of caring for that whole child.
So I can speak to the knowing what a counselor is. So last year when we first went into the elementaries, I know like I went into every single classroom of both of my buildings, as did the other counselors in the other 4 buildings, and introduced myself, introduced my role, and I know so everyone knew what my role was for the school. And then this school year, to all of our kindergarten classes, I did the same, as well as to the 1st grade classes, since we have, the number of students who may not have been there in kindergarten. Some of them don't know, the younger ones, that I'm like, my title is school counselor. I'm usually called the feelings teacher. But
that's great.
They know that that's my role there. So we are introducing that, and they're a face, I'm a face they see all the time.
Yeah.
Even
I
if
do.
they're
I mean,
not
just
in my
in-
small group.
Yeah, to Mr. Bagley's point, I'm hoping that there's continuity between all those schools, and that they know what a resource and what help they can get and what tools you have, and, yeah, but it's, amen.
Yeah, I'm all in too. I'm all for this, I really am. I think as a district, as a board, Mr. Smith talks about always doing what's best in the interests of our students, and certainly this would be that. We're talking a lot about early intervention, and this would address this at the elementary level. What you said really resonates with me, and conflict management. Sometimes the problems they bring are created at home, but sometimes very well-intentioned parents don't have the skills to deal with some of the issues. If I don't suffer from anxiety, it would be tough for me to help my child with anxiety, as an example. And having that facilitated through the counselor role at the elementary level, I think really helps with that early development of our child.
Well, in hearing this, I'm saddened because it's apparent that we have a lot of kids that are suffering through no fault of their own, just the social and emotional cycle that they're in. It could be poverty, it could be a number of things as you've laid it out. And it is sad, but I do think we can do more. With the wellness funds that were provided, I think it was $675,000 or something like that, and pulling a portion of those funds, it does make sense to me that we definitely want to at least have one counselor per school. I mean, it still seems like an overwhelming type number. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. But I also think that this conversation is important, particularly in the climate that we're in right now, because everyone's aware of what we're facing as public schools. People need to understand that kids that are in public schools basically mirror the society, and they're coming with serious problems that require serious solutions, and it's important to have funding. So as the state gave us the additional wellness funds, they've also done other things that endanger our funding, overall to a greater extent. So this is really important, and I'm so grateful that you guys are doing this. I'm so grateful that you're helping the kids. One of the questions that I have pertains to the learning assessment tool. Let's see, it's the Panorama Education and SEL. So the social emotional learning tool, in what form is that? Is that a questionnaire, survey? I mean, how does that look?
Yeah, it's a questionnaire. The teachers had a questionnaire that they filled out. It was all online into a database, and then the same for our students. And how do you feel about, and I don't know if Mr. Madden can think of any questions off the top of his head. I can't think of a question off the top of my head, but that's what the questions were. It was just a survey that they took about how they felt about themselves.
And so is there a particular type of variance that you look for? Is there a trigger? When you drill down on the data, are there certain algorithms that you look for that kind of alerts you, okay, we've got an issue here. How do we target more resources for this kid? How do you take that tool and really drill down into the weeds of it to really effectively help the students?
I will say for me personally, when I looked at the data, the students who, scored in areas that, were concerned or they rated themselves low or teachers rated them, in areas for growth, that they were not students that I was surprised by. They were students that were already in my groups, that some who I had seen last year in group and I was already seeing, some who I knew were getting outside services already, and then, when we looked at them as a whole, which things are lower per grade level, like what's lower as a building, like what can we do collectively. So there's a variety of ways that we kind of looked at the data. And I know we're interested to see in the spring, that growth and like what growth has been shown in that. And then that will give us a good indication also of where we can start as a building next school year for, which areas need a little more growth overall. And we can target that as building.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
I just want to say, again, thank you all for what you do, because I think it's really important. I'm all for this. I'm in. I think, especially with trying to implement it at the earlier ages, you're erasing sort of the stigma around needing a little extra support at a younger age, so that kids will be hopefully more likely, if they have an issue, to come to somebody. And sort of to play off of what Mr. Begley said, the kids could have the most supportive and wonderful and great parents at home, but when they get to school, they may feel like, my parents aren't here, who am I going to talk to? And then if they get anxious or something, it's important that they have somebody to go to. So I think it's great that you all do that, and I thank you for it.
It's heartbreaking to hear some of the things that kids go through now. It's, I see it every day, and it's difficult not be able to do something about it, And I think we have the ability to help a little bit, and it's such an important issue because you don't know what someone's going through. Just like with the ID project that we have for our older kids, you don't know what people are bringing to school and what they're taking home. And anything that we can do to help the child at a younger age will then help our intermediate or our middle schools, help our freshman school and help our senior high, because we're helping them at a younger age learn coping skills and how to handle anxiety and things like that. And so that maybe they're not bringing that need to our other buildings. So, Mr. Madden, is there an ask tonight? What do you need from us?
So we're not asking for a formal vote or anything like that. Your feedback has certainly guided us that we're on the right direction. So, I think our next steps will be to create those positions and post positions to be able to make our elementaries full with a counselor. And so that was, and I'll turn things over to Mr. Smith. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but I think that's what we were looking for.
You're right on target, and I do just want to say, if it's okay, I just want to thank all of our counselors that are here this evening, and I know that you spend a lot of time with Jeff and Donna, and while I may not be in those meetings, that they're keeping me updated on those conversations and communications and behind the scenes, and I think our board members have alluded to it tonight. We value what you do, and we know that you need some extra supports. I'm sure we could use extra supports at every level, but we're excited to move forward with having a full-time counselor in each of our buildings. And while I'm thanking you, I want to thank Kim for those stories that you've shared. It's just, it really hits home in terms of the needs of our kids, and we know it because we're in it every single day. But not everyone understands the need that is there and what really happens if it's not taking place in their family, or it's not impacting their best friends, then they just may not have an awareness that is taking place across the district and in our community. So thank you so much for all you do, and thank you to the board for supporting this, as this is a direction that we're headed. I'm really spending a lot of time talking about earlier interventions because our kids need it. So thank you.
And I know, Mr. Madden, you mentioned that it was in the 5-year forecast, those numbers. But just quickly, do you know off the top of your head, ballpark figure about what that would mean, what that increase would be?
Well, if I don't know it, I know someone that probably would, and that's Mrs. Lane. So I'm gonna.
Oh, you had the microphone, so I thought.
You were going
maybe-
to ask. Do it. Please don't quote me.
Well,
I'll give you a
how about if
ballpark.
could you just come back
Sure.
with that number, or
sure.
send it to us? I don't want to put you on the spot
So,
now.
well,
but-
just to clarify what Mr. Madden was saying, so the student success, wellness and success funds that we're receiving, we're allowed to charge 50% of the some of the counselors, not all, to come out of that fund. And that's what we're utilizing some of that money for this year, for some of our current counselors. Next year, the additional counselors will be charged out of that fund just for that 1 year, because that funding, we don't know if it will continue after next year. So I'm thinking it's around $76,000 this year that we're utilizing of those funds. I think it's 100, I want to say it's a little 100 and,
I was thinking 111.
yes,
is the number.
110, something, is what I'm thinking in my mind for next year. But I can definitely verify that for you.
All right, thank you. I would appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Madden. Thank you very much, Ms. Howard.
And Mr. Madden, somebody will let me know, because I would love to be on that advisory board. Somebody will let me know whenever that next meeting is. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Sounds like they'll find you.
Thank you for everyone sticking around tonight for those two presentations. They were very important to the health of our school district.